Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the analysis. Today we're talking about a new NFL season and the first week in the books for the Detroit Lions with a home victory over the Los Angeles Rams, 26 to 20 in overtime. Was a really exciting game to watch, especially all the way down to the wire. I definitely thought they were trending towards a loss in this game. I almost turned it off at the end. You could just see as a Lions fan for so long what this type of game ends up looking like for the Lions, how the Lions contrive to lose games year after year after year. This looked like exactly what one of those games looked like, different ways to lose, and I can't believe that at the end the Lions finally went back to their bread and butter and just rammed the ball down the Rams' throat with David Montgomery, who was my MVP of the game, one of my favorite player in the Lions, and deserving of so much more praise and recognition for his contribution to this offense and to this Lions team that almost got to the Super Bowl last year. David Montgomery putting the team on his back in the OT. But let's get to a little bit of our analysis of the game. First of all, I just want to give a lot of credit to the Rams because the Rams came into this game knowing exactly what they wanted to do to the Lions. This was the first week, obviously, of the regular season. A lot of teams aren't even playing their starters. Different teams are betting in rookies, betting in second-year players, betting in young guys. The Rams had a lot of injuries on the offensive line. They had some departures on the defense that meant that they had to rely on a few unsung guys. A lot of folks that haven't had to play too much of a role in prior years. They said goodbye to Aaron Donald, perhaps the greatest defensive player, perhaps the greatest football player of all time, no longer in the interior of their defense. And so you can imagine what type of impact that has on a defense and on a team as a whole when that guy isn't around on the sidelines or in the game to basically blow up anything the Lions wanted to do. So really a lot of credit to the Rams, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball as they came into this game. First of all, on the offensive side, the Rams knew that the Lions were improved on the defensive side, but they also knew that the Lions had some young guys that they were trying to bet in. They knew that they had basically all of a Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion, Matthew Stafford. So many years in Detroit with the production and wins and losses and up and down seasons and yardage and yardage and yardage, throws to Megatron, throws to whoever it was that was on the receiving corps for almost a decade. Just a huge servant to the Lions for so many years. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to stick around for this iteration of the Lions, and maybe the Lions are better for it. But he understands Ford Field. He understands what the Lions are trying to do. He understands how to read defenses. He's been in this league for a really, really long time. He and Sean McVay, two of the better minds in the game at this point, being able to scheme up an offense with their offensive coordinator to basically take advantage of the Lions weaknesses and negate the Lions' strengths on defense. So first of all, basically, Matthew Stafford did not want to get hit in this game. He didn't want to give the Lions a chance. Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport on the edges to get in and disrupt his rhythm, his throwing. And the Rams basically made the game plan to dink and duck down the field, small underneath routes, out routes, that kind of stuff, three-step drop, get the ball out of your hands. Matthew Stafford's getting out the ball out of his hands in under 3 seconds, which didn't give Aiden Hutchinson or Marcus Davenport or any of the interior rushers any time to get to him. He already had the ball out of his hands. Even with that being said, the Lions did a pretty good job trying to hurry him. They affected his throws on many occasions, including on the interception in the end zone from Kirby Joseph. So the Lions did get after the quarterback. Aiden Hutchinson, a lot of spin moves. Really going to be exciting to watch his technicality and the way that he grows as a pass rusher this year. Hopefully, he makes that step up to that Joey Bosa, T.J. Watt level. That's the ceiling for him. I think that's where Lions fans want to see him. Someone that you have to basically devote a double team to in order to stop him getting to the quarterback, which frees up the rest of the defensive line to do what they want to do, and the Lions have a lot of personnel to be able to take advantage of those situations. So the Rams did a great job just negating that threat just by getting the ball out of Stafford's hands because they were really banged up on the offensive line. They had both their tackles out. And even at one point, there was another injury on the offensive line. And so some, 6-year pro out of Michigan State had to come in and play right tackle, giving away holding penalties, didn't really, wasn't obviously up to the speed of the game. So the Lions were able to take advantage of that in a lot of occasions and almost get to the quarterback. They got to the quarterback a couple times in key moments, especially Aiden Hutchinson at the end of the game, trying to end the Rams' run down the field. Big defensive stops there, but the Rams did a great job getting the ball out of Stafford's hands and using one of their favorite tools, which is pre-snap motion, especially with one of the lead receivers in the game, Cooper Kupp, getting that pre-match motion, understanding the coverage, exactly what the Lions were showing. Again, it's week 1. We're still trying to bed in a new secondary. Brian Branch is a great player, young player, but he was switching positions to safety. Played a lot of nickel last year. Harry and Arnold, first professional game. So the Lions were still dealing with a lot of different changes on the back end, and the Rams knew exactly how to take advantage of that. The Lions were trying to stay in man coverage, and the Rams knew, well, let's just use a whole bunch of pre-snap motion, which is one of their specialties, to get one of our best receivers out there, Cooper Kupp the ball, get them to make plays on the perimeter and underneath. Um, Alexander Anzalone, to his credit, was able to stop a lot of those kind of flare routes and bubble screens, getting out to the football early on in the game, he had a great game. I think three tackles for loss, 10 tackles. Amazing game from Alexander Anzalone. He was ready to play, looking like a star in the middle, in the interior of that Lions defense. But the Rams had a great game plan. I think Puka Nakua, who just absolutely ripped the Lions to the shreds in the previous game in the wild card round of the playoffs last year. This rematch of that playoff game, the first Lions playoff win in over 30 years, coming back into the building, trying to do the same thing. He unfortunately went out injured. Always hate to see those injuries happen. But that was a big deal for the Lions because they had one less threat to deal with. And Puka Nakua is more of a threat over the top. So the Lions could kind of key down on those underneath routes that the Rams were running. But the game plan was to get the ball out of Stafford's hands early and often, and so I think those routes over the top that could have happened for Puka Nakua maybe weren't going to be there anyway because the game plan was to get it out of their hands. Maybe he could have caught a couple of screen passes or things like that, made a couple of people miss, which is one of his specialties. Rumbled and bumbled for another 13 yards, 14 yards on the perimeter, but obviously that's a big loss for the Rams. Hopefully he gets well soon, but that was the grand game plan. It was working to a T. They were really confusing the Lions, even for one of their touchdowns. Carlton Davis just kind of fell over on the field because he was trying to stick with the receiver as they were doing the pre-snap motion, just fell over, and it was a cakewalk into the end zone for the Rams on that one touchdown. So the Rams had a really great game plan on offense. Also on defense, I think they had a really they have a young defense. A lot of new folks coming into the defensive line. New linebackers after the departure of one of their stalwart linebackers, which caused a lot of confusion in the media. But you could see by the way that Roseboom and the other linebacker played in this game. They were fast. They were physical. They were instinctive. They were able to gain tackle and to get the Lions on the ground um, all throughout the game, and they looked ready and up for the fight. So I think the Lions kind of played into their hands a little bit because the Rams did not want to get too complicated on defense, and their defense is a smaller front. It's a fast front. I think they were much better suited to the type of to a type of aerial attack that the Lions seem to kind of try to force a little bit, trying to get Goff into his rhythm, trying to get the ball to St. Brown and one play over the middle, kind of This is the Rams interception where it was kind of the final read from Goff. He kind of saw St. Brown over the corner of his eye over the middle, tried to get the ball to him, but it almost worked. But the ball miraculously cradled it underneath the arm of the Rams defender. Didn't know anything about it, but the replay showed the ball never hit the ground, and so it was credited as an interception. But pretty miraculous in that way. But no, I think the Rams were well suited to the Lions passing attack. They were able to get after Goff a couple of times. Goff is just so immobile. He was able to show one run on third down. It was a big deal to get that third down conversion. Just moving those legs, try to get around the corner and get the first down on one of his scrambles. But so that's good to see that he's able to pull a rabbit out of a hat whenever if he needs to in order to make those 3rd and 5 runs for the first down. Very encouraging to see there. You hopefully he takes more advantage of that in the future, but he is not the most mobile guy back there in the pocket. And if you give him a little bit of pressure and he has to reset his feet, you're probably going to get the quarterback. You're probably going to get a sack. So the Rams did a good job of that, and they were able to take advantage of the Lions' passing attack. Amon-Ra St. Brown had what two catches on the day. Had a pretty good, really key catch to get a first down in the red zone for the Lions that set up a score. But other than that, he was not involved. Jahmyr Gibbs more involved maybe in the passing attack, wasn't able to get too involved. He had a couple of good plays. Um, but other than that, the Lions didn't get any of the receivers going, and Jared Goff did not have a greatest day. He threw an interception. So I think Ben Johnson was trying to get him more involved in the game, but he just kind of wasn't taking what the defense was giving him, which was those runs down the Rams' throat, right at their two young interior defenders, trying to replace Aaron Donald, an impossible task. And the Lions should have just gone for the jugular right from the start. They did start off the game like that, doing that with David Montgomery, but they should have just kept it the all game, and the Rams would have been completely demoralized and gassed by the second half. I mean, this is the first game of the season. Just go straight at them. Do what we're ready to do. If there's one player that came back, and Dan Campbell mentioned this, David Montgomery went out to Arizona to train during the offseason. He came back in incredible shape, and he was ready to go. I think he and Alexander Logan were the two players I think that were the most ready to go in this game, and he was showing why I love David Montgomery, why he's my favorite running back. I think in the league right now, I think he loves. I love watching him run the ball. He gets so little credit for all the different tools in his toolbox. He does everything you want to see. He runs with power. He keeps his legs churning. He falls forward. He also has a little wiggle in the hole. He's tough to bring down. He keeps the play going. He has belief that he can get to the next level. He can even break it long, as we saw in the Chargers game last year. He can hit the home run if he needs to. He almost hit the home run in the OT a couple plays in. He almost got there. The receiver would kind of blocked the wrong person. That didn't allow him to kind of break the long one, and he would have closed the game out right there if they allowed him to. But David Montgomery was the player in this game, and if they had continued to feed him in the first half and in the second half, I think the Lions would have won this game more comfortably. But as I mentioned, the Rams schemed well for Goff. They schemed well for the Lions passing attack, and they were able to stymie most of what Jared Goff wanted to do. But the offensive line that the Lions have built, David Montgomery in the backfield, that was the key in this game. I think there was still some ability for Laporta, different end arounds options for the Lions, and then just Jameson Williams. This is a very kind of thunder and lightning game in that sense. I mean, you pound the ball, you pound the rock with David Montgomery, and that opens up some options for Jameson Williams over the top, a little bit deeper down the field. And a lot of his production came from two catches, basically one play action over the middle, that Jared Goff was able to step into, zip it into him in the middle of the field, which is right in Jared Goff's wheelhouse. And then Jameson Williams was able to run another 20, 30 yards down the field because he's just so fast and no one was able to catch him. So that's what we were loving to see from Jameson Williams. And then on the touchdown, just a dirty, dirty, dirty double move on the cornerback there for the Rams. Gotta strike fear into the hearts of every defensive back in the league after seeing that performance. He just hit the brakes for a second and then he was gone. He had at least 5, 10 yards between him and the defensive back at one point. And Jared Goff, you know, Jared Goff is not the quarterback for Jameson Williams. I mean, get him a Will Levis, get him on Anthony Richardson, get him, someone to be able to at least time the throw to get it over the top of Jameson Williams because he's always going to get there first. He's going to get there before Jared Goff's ball, and Jared Goff throwing deep is not his strong suit. He tends to throw up some ducks. So Jameson Williams just always had to kind of compensate with his sheer pace in that instance. Like he was able to get past the defensive back and beat him so bad that Jared Goff's duck kind of arrived there, but the defensive back still had 5 yards to make up. And Jameson Williams had time to stop, catch the ball, turn around, and run into the end zone almost untouched, basically. So Jameson Williams made that entire play himself. Jared Goff, I think it's just a matter of timing. Once he gets this timing down, I think he'll be able to recognize that situation and get the ball out of his hands earlier. But I mean, you got to get that ball out to Jameson Williams earlier, so that he can take advantage of that. Because if you throw up a couple of ducks, Jameson Williams is going to get cleaned out or injured or frustrated just by the fact that you're not getting hitting him where he needs to be hitting stride. And that's going to be a gimme play for any quarterback other than Jared Goff that has any type of arm strength. So, James Williams definitely had his breakout game, but David Montgomery, Demo, was the player in this game and the player for that the Lions needed first game of the season to establish their dominance in this game. They went away from him for enough time to kind of get a couple of throws. Jameson Williams, that was great. But if they had just stuck with the run game, I think they would have had more success. You know, the defensive line for the Lions coming into this game a little bit banged up. They were able to get some pressure on Stafford. I think they're going to be a lot better during the year. I think we're going to see some good stuff out of them, especially when they get healthy, when DJ Reader comes back and all that kind of stuff. The defense played some bend but not break defense. The Rams, as I mentioned, had a pretty about as good as a game plan as you can have for this game. A lot of pre-snap motion to kind of to take advantage of the Lions' man coverage that they stayed in for most of the game, and it was working until they got to the red zone. And then in the red zone, the Lions were able to stout up. They were able to get a couple goal line stands. There was one goal line stand where Kyron Williams tried to get into the end zone, and Brian Branch, who didn't have the greatest game, was able to come up and run support and stop him at the line with a little bit of help. The next play, the Rams got a holding penalty, and they got backed up and had to kick the field goal. So, really some stout defending in the red zone from the Lions, other than giving away a couple of silly pass interference penalties. Those are going to happen. Terry and Arnold's first game as a professional in the regular season, coming out of college, coming out of Alabama, coming out of a system where you're allowed to be a little more handsy with the receivers. We're allowed to have a little more contact after the 5 yards with the receivers, and just did not get the benefit of the doubt in this league. So he's going to learn. He's a smart player. He was right there in the right place at the right time. He just needs to kind of learn how to play the game a little bit better, and he will. He looks like he's going to be a solid corner in this league. So I'm not too worried about him. But obviously, those two instances, he was able to the Rams were able to take advantage of the huge experience and basically get some free yardage down to the 1 yard line. And even then, they weren't able to get in. So I think the Lions, the defense deserves a lot of credit. Only 20 points scored in this game, as I mentioned. You're up against the Rams, even without Puka Nacua, even without an offensive line that was banged up, even with an offensive line that was banged up. This is one of the more elite play callers and quarterbacks in this league, and they're going to put up points when they want to. And if the Lions are able to stop them in the red zone, that's a big deal. Huge interception of Corey Joseph. Just kind of blending in. The Lions were wearing those blueberry uniforms, all blue. I think it just kind of blended into the end zone a little bit. It's kind of funny, and you can see Stafford after the throw, just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see him. I think that was what was going through his head at that point. But yeah, I think he might have just not even seen him. He saw the white jersey streaking towards the center of the end zone. He wanted to, thought he saw him, threw off his back foot because of the pressure from the Lions. Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport almost getting there in that instance. And he had to release a little bit early, which gave Kirby Joseph a second to get his hands on the ball and make the interception. Big interception there. So and the Lions hung around on defense, but I just think they played with their food a little bit. They tried to get Goff going, tried to force it, and Ben Johnson, I think should have made that adjustment a little bit earlier in the game to get back to Demo, and I think that this game would have been less of a nail biter. But I think you know all of that set up for the fourth quarter in which I thought, this game is going wrong for the Lions. Everything's going wrong. They were not able to get back into that mode of of moving the ball down the field. They finally in the final drive were able to get a stop against the Rams. The defensive line finally got there, and then the Lions were able to get that field goal to tie the game up at the end. Big kick from Bates there. There's going to be a lot of those this year, and to get off on the right foot literally is a big deal for a kicker. So much confidence going to be able to take from that kick. So that's very important for the Lions moving forward. But they were finally able to move the ball down the field in that way with the run game, and then getting into overtime, it was really about who's going to win the toss because whichever team got the toss is going to take the ball, and had a lot of confidence that they were going to score. I think a lot of folks are saying, well, coin toss was the MVP of the game because both teams were going to score. No, I mean, just look at what happened during the game. The Rams, yeah, they moved the ball down the field, but just a field goal does not win the game anymore in overtime. And they were going to have to get into the end zone. And I think the Lions have played some pretty good, as I mentioned, bend but not break defense. We're going to let you move the ball down the field, but we also know you're going to make a couple mistakes. We're going to allow our players to make plays. We're going to allow our defensive line to get after the quarterback. And it's just as likely you're going to go 3-and-out that you're going to get a touchdown. And so I think the Rams should have were within their rights to be confident that they were going to, if they had gotten the ball in the overtime, they were going to be able to move the ball down the field and score. But I think it was more likely the Lions had the talent and physical, the physical capacity to just basically impose their will in that overtime. After its first game of the season, as I mentioned, players are not up to their physical capacities. What's going to win the game? Taking over in the trenches and just ramming the ball down the Rams' throats. A defense that was not prepared for that type of rushing attack, and it showed because you know it's almost good from a fan perspective to get to the end of that game, and although it caused so much despair and panic at the end, as a Lions fan, you got to see that type of dominance, which you don't see very often. This is the NFL. This is not Alabama versus Appalachian State. This is professional players going at it, and you don't see offensive lines, even the best out there, impose their will on other professional football players in the way that the Lions imposed their dominance in this final OT drive because it was just demoralizing. They were showing little screen grabs of McVay over on the sideline. Just these are people that operate at such a high level that are so kind of keyed in on imposing their will, have that just ripped away from you at the end of the game when you thought you had done everything right. Ooh, this has got to hurt for Stafford. This has got to hurt for McVay, Cooper Cup, everyone. Um, and that's what winning teams can do. This is what good teams can do. They can lean on that thing that they know they're going to line up, and you're going to know what they're going to do, and they're still going to beat you with it. And that's what a winning football team can do to you. And that's the difference between what the Lions used to do and what the Lions secretly do now. Is just lean on those strengths and let them carry, and it's enough to carry them over the lines, literally. And so this drive, go watch it. It's a thing of beauty. If you love running football, if you love power football, it's not going to get any better than this for this whole season. Like that might be the most satisfying drive of the season for the Lions. Just literally lining up run after run after run, couple of passes sprinkled in, a nice little trickeration play call to get Khalif Raymond off the mark and for the first call of the game. Everyone's getting keyed up. Ben Johnson, to his credit, calls a little reverse play, gets 10, 11 yards off right off the bat, gets the team moving, gets a little speed there, and then just power, power, power. Same plays back and forth to different boundaries of the field between the tackles, just letting this offensive line take over, do what they do best, and just ran this ball straight down the Rams' throat. It was beautiful to see. David Montgomery keeping the plays alive, churning his feet, just not taking no for an answer, and just wheeling the ball down the field. Almost broke it off, as I mentioned. There was one run, through the B gap there that he almost broke off. But this was a display of dominance that take note because it doesn't happen often in this league, and it should be savored for what it was. And it was just awesome to see David Montgomery imposing his will, seeing this offensive line imposing its will. Panay Sewell, Zeitler, right from the Ravens, come into a team that from a team that basically has pretensions to win a Super Bowl and some of the greatest players in the league right now. Making the decision to come to the Lions to see if you can get that ring. That's a big deal. So, I think they did a great job on this final drive, and it was just a thing of beauty to see. And I think the play that actually won the game was the penultimate play, the play right before they actually scored the touchdown, because you watch it, it's a dive straight down the middle, and first of all, the offensive line gets this incredible push. David Montgomery is making contact with the backs of his offensive linemen right into the teeth of the Rams defensive line, 3 or 4 yards from the line of scrimmage. The push that they were getting in this drive was just incredible. Go back and watch. I mean, no one's getting touched until 3 or 4 yards into the defensive backfield. Just an incredible display of power running. And so he just diving straight into the middle of the teeth of that defense. It was already kind of 5 yards on the field, and then got stopped, and the Lions and the Rams defense stiffened, and then you saw Taylor Decker and Toretto outside blocker kind of collapse in to push the pile another 5 or 6 yards all the way down to the 1 yard line. David Montgomery in the middle there, churning his legs. Just diving forward, using every ounce strength he has to get down into that end zone. They could have scored on that play, but at that point, maybe the Rams should have called it a timeout before on that 3rd and 1 play, because they needed to take a breather, because they were just getting run backwards all the way down the field, which is not only physically draining, it's mentally draining for a defense to just kind of turn and run. You get moved off your spot, getting moved against your will. It's emotionally draining for them. And then they got 3rd and 1. They probably just needed a second to take a breath. But the Lions took advantage of it, as they basically reached the Rams on that play. And then, 1st and 10 from the 1. The Rams take a timeout, but he was looking at McVay, at the Rams offensive line. There was no other line for not to punch that ball. He knew exactly who was going to go to. He was going to go to David Montgomery. Lions brought in heavy personnel, and it was a form of time. The Rams were already down the tunnel. I mean, at that point, it was over. So beautiful, beautiful way to win the game. Really satisfying way to win the game. Football that I love to watch. Those runs between the tackles. David Montgomery, one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL right now. Completely underrated. In fantasy, everyone's going crazy for Jameer Gibbs. Oh, he's an awesome weapon. I'm so excited to watch him as well. But David Montgomery he's one of those players that just puts his head down and works. And just tries to get better every day. He has so many qualities that people don't tend to notice about him. He not only has this power, but he has this agility in the hole. He has this kind of slipperiness, he knows how to kind of move his hips. There was a play, I think it was against the Chiefs maybe, in the opener last year where he kind of was able to move his hips um, and dunk into the end zone almost 5 yards out. Where a lot of running backs are just kind of hitting the linebacker in that, or the defensive back in that moment, maybe turning their legs, getting a couple more yards. David Montgomery is thought of as this power back, and no, he flips his hips, he makes himself skinny, he squeaks by the defender, and then is able to take the hit and ride the hit into the end zone. So this guy is biting you off 5 or 6 yards extra every single carry. It's just ridiculous, and I wish he would got more credit for it because I love the love for Jahmyr Gibbs, but David Montgomery needs some serious love for what he's done for this team in this opener, what he did for the team last year. Had him on my fantasy team, he absolutely killed it. I was hoping to get him this year, but wasn't able to, unfortunately. But David Montgomery, my favorite player right now, and long may it continue. Hopefully, Ben Johnson sees that no team can hang with his offensive line plus David Montgomery, and the more the Lions lean on that, the more that's going to open up. Not only is that going to you know beat and batter opposing defenses and make the Lions more capable of winning the game at the end with a tired defense. But it's also going to open up the playbook for JMO. We saw on the touchdown pass. You know, Jared Goff is going to need time in order to make those play action throws to JMO. He needs to be better at the timing to understand that JMO is just going by someone, and so you can just put it up, and he's going to be there. He's probably going to beat the ball there. Um, so Jared Goff needs to work on that timing, but those are going to be possible because of an opposing defense being so terrified of David Montgomery over the middle, right in the teeth of defense. And the more that the Lions can do that, the more that they're going to be able to, if someone tries to sell out to stop David Montgomery, which some teams might do, that's probably a winning strategy against the Lions. If you're capable of doing it on the defensive line, if you have that personnel in that scheme to stuff the Lions, that's a recipe for victory. But the Lions are banking on the fact that if you're going to respect that, we now have the weapons to hit you with Jahmyr Gibbs on the swing pass, with Amon Ra over the middle, with Jameson Williams taking the top off. And we have three levels there that we can hit you on. And so that's going to be key. But you have to establish David Montgomery first and last in some ways to close up the victory and just establish dominance where you have the advantage and no other team can hang with you. So this was a great way to end the game. Great way to give props to Dave Montgomery. Got the game ball after the game from Dan Campbell. A lot of praise. So long may that continue. Week 1, the Lions off to winning starts, and around the league, I think the 49ers looked good. I think um, they alongside the 49ers look like the cream of the crop in the NFC. The Lions look like the cream of the crop in the NFC. The Eagles got a tough win over the Packers. I think those are going to be the teams that are going to be there. I think the Bucks look good. Great win in the opening weekend. The Rams also look great. I mean, getting Puka and Cool back later down the road, they're going to have one of the more potent passing attacks in the league, and that's enough to carry you pretty far in this league. It's built passing nowadays. Kyron Williams, no slouch in the backfield, and if that defense can continue to limit offenses in the way that they limited the Lions, I think they're going to be in really great shape. So I think the Rams will be there, the Buccaneers will be there, probably division winners. Eagles and 49ers look like the class. Cowboys got a win over the Browns, pretty hapless in that way, but the Lions look really great, and we'll see how that translates into week 2 against the Buccaneers. You know, one punch, two punch. You got the Rams coming into town, and you got the Buccaneers coming into town. Basically the same as the two first rounds of the playoffs last year. Lions got both of those victories. Both the Buccaneers and the Rams know exactly what they're walking into after what happened those playoff victories from the Lions last year. So it'll be interesting to see what adjustments they make. how they're able to exploit some of the weaknesses the Lions still have, and how the Lions continue to grow into week two. As Dan Campbell said, all we got to do is get a little bit better, and I think we'll be okay. So I agree with that sentiment. I think Ben Johnson making those adjustments, leaning a little bit more on the things that are working, not trying to force Jared Goff because I still think we're not quite there to the level of efficiency on offense where we can kind of give the ball to Jared Goff. He may win a few games for us this year through the air, but I think the games are going to be mostly won on the ground, or with kind of these underneath passes and things like that, or with Jameson Williams over the top, basically allowing Goff's arm strength to be less than desired, but being so fast that it allows him to kind of to keep to keep it enough different distance between him and the defensive back to get those wins on the top. So the Lions are really well set up. It's going to be a great game against Tampa Bay coming into Ford Field, and we're all hyped up for it. Lions off to a winning start, 1-0. That's one down, and we'll see how far this can go. This has been the analysis. First week of the 2024 NFL season. The Lions with a big victory. Let's keep it going.